Let's talk a little bit about quarterback, Nick. I know that you have to run here soon. Let's talk a little bit about quarterback. Are we all just throwing Graham Mertz in as the starter?
Yeah, I think that's where we're at. And I wasn't. It's been a roller coaster watching the fans react to Graham Mertz. You get Graham Mertz from Wisconsin. And it's who is this trash? Andy Jean, who was 17 at the time from Miami, not a quarterback hotbed, says this is the best quarterback I've ever played with. And then we hit an all-time
He's
high
from
on
Miami,
Graham.
though. So
We've hit an all-time high on the Graham Mertz hype train. I'm like, hey, this is a 17-year-old kid from Miami. This 23-year-old quarterback should probably be the best quarterback he's ever played with.
I mean, you ever seen South Florida quarterback play? Have you ever seen South Florida quarterback play? The kid wasn't lying.
The fans took that and ran with it, and then spring happened, and fans were back down on him. So we've seen some peaks and valleys with the Graham Mertz hype train. I think he's a fine quarterback. He can get the job done. He can be a game manager. You just need him to hit the passes, the easy connections he needs to be able to keep defenses honest, because you've got 4 really talented running backs and an offensive line, if they're healthy, that can run block, and you can challenge them to run block, and Florida can be a productive offense in that way. They're not going to be high flying. It's not going to be 2020 where you're throwing the ball 60 times a game. You're not going to ask Graham Mertz to do those kind of things. You just need to maybe play keep away, sustain some drives with your running attack, and keep your defense fresh on the sidelines. The turnovers that you had, and turnovers have been a huge knock on Graham Mertz's game. He can't turn the ball over the way he has the last 2 years, and Florida have a successful offensive season. So you have to have Graham not turn the ball over at the rates at which he did the last 2 years at Wisconsin, because that would be a death blow for Florida.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to watch like a lot of his Wisconsin game, and you know, so a lot of those turnovers is just bad luck. You know, like he was put in a lot of bad situations. Offensive line wasn't that great. I know Dan like to say the season's gonna go as Jaden Hill goes, but I think the season's gonna go as the offensive line go. How much they could, you know, maul and push teams around. So Graham Mertz could play off of play action and catch some teams in some bad moments. I think Billy do a good job of setting up play action. But hearing the running backs talk about their usage in the pass game, I know a lot of those touch throws, swing passes, and a lot of things from out of the backfield we weren't able to hit with AR. So I don't think we need to lean on him to be, AR. I don't think we were trying to have AR be AR. It was just some hero ball every now and then. But we got to play behind our pads, run the ball, and play some defense. And play action pass off of that. And I think if we put him in good down and distance situations continually, we'll be able to move the sticks and not have to rely on explosive plays like we did last year. That's the growth I want to see out of the quarterback position in the offense is sustainable drives. A lot of our scores was just us being able to make explosive. We were one of the most explosive offenses in the country. So I want to see some more sustainable drives this year and being able to put the ball in the playmakers' hands, like the young guys with big speed, and Aiden Mazzell. Just being able to get those guys some easy looks, some easy pass, and see if they can make somebody miss and then possibly take it to the house. But I don't think we need him to go out there and be Joe Montana or nobody like that.
Yeah, no, Graham Mertz, 32 starts. That's something that Billy Napier talks about a lot whenever he speaks. 5,405 passing yards, 38 touchdowns, 26 interceptions, just a hair under 60% for career completion rate. There's a couple things here. One, Paul Chryst gets fired during the middle of the season last year. You could say, hey, maybe the team just didn't perform. That's on him. And you could also say, hey, the offense wasn't performing. Paul Chryst, an offensive guy, maybe it's his fault. Who knows, right? There's a lot of blame game that goes around. I think for Graham, they're going to be asked to do a few things. And this is where I think that Graham Mertz actually could be a pretty good quarterback for the Florida Gators this season. Number one is I don't think Graham Mertz, if you look at a lot of his interceptions, there was a lot of bad luck, a lot of miscommunication. It seems like I think if Florida can call an offense where you get the ball open, to some of these guys with speed and space, I don't expect or want Graham Mertz to throw the 40 or 50-yard go route necessarily. if we can, and Florida can hit those short to intermediate throws. Florida was very much a Jekyll and Hyde offense, right? We saw it against Florida State. It's probably the best example where Florida goes out, has a very strong offensive first half, and then they go and throw 13 straight incompletions. Florida has to be able to limit those kind of turnover opportunities, right? So I think Florida has better running backs than he had at Wisconsin. I think he's got a better wide receiving group than he has at Wisconsin. Wisconsin always is going to have a good mauling offensive line, but I think they'll have an athletic group. But I think if you look at the way the Florida's offense is built this year, you have Montrell Johnson with another year on his belt. You have ETN with another year under his belt. And then you have Cam Carroll, who is very much expected to play this year. So I like Florida's offense from the running back perspective. I think that that's going to allow Graham, some opportunities. But I think if Florida's able to figure out the speed and space component, that's going to probably rely on a lot of freshman wide receivers to come in. But if Florida can continuously make those short to intermediate throws, I think that Graham Mertz will be okay. I think that he's athletic. I think that there's a reason why he was one of the top 50-ish players in the country in his recruiting class. And I think Edgar Thompson did an interview with his quarterback coach, Justin Hoover, that he's known for a long time, said the change of scenery refreshed him, re-energized him, gave him some perspective. I think that Graham really has tackled this offseason the way that you want to out of a starting quarterback. And, time will tell. But I don't think that Graham Mertz is this terrible quarterback. I think that a lot of people just think because he was a highly touted recruit, Wisconsin didn't work out, the coach gets fired, that he's this terrible quarterback. I don't think he's the 14th best quarterback in the SEC. I think that Graham will likely finish somewhere in that 5 to 8 range. And I think ultimately Florida might be in a better offensive position than they were under Anthony Richardson, just based on all the other tools that they have around him.
All right, I'm with you on all of that.
Cool. Jack Miller, Max Brown, the other options there. Oh, and it is important to remember, and I said it on this show last week, Silk, you might have missed this hot take. I expect Graham Mertz to be the starting quarterback for the University of Florida for the next 2 years.
Hot take.
That's hot as hell.
Yeah. You have Jack Miller and Max Brown as the backups. What do you guys want to see out of them? What do you expect out of them? How else do you see this QB room shaking out?
I would like to see Max Brown's growth. We kind of know what we're gonna get out of Jack Miller, in my opinion. No slight to him, but I think he's possibly at his ceiling when it pertains to being a quarterback on the collegiate level. I think there's a lot of potential with Max Brown. There's been a lot of talk about him this offseason. For the players, the coaches, all singing his praise as far as like some growth this year. So he brings a different element. I'm not gonna say Graham Mertz is not mobile, because he is. Shout out to him for running over 20 miles per hour the other day. That was pretty dope. But I think Max Brown can bring some different athleticism and some different capabilities into the offense. So I'd like to just see some growth from him this camp. That way we could get an idea of what that QB2 looks like, because like you said, we've seen this before in Florida. Quarterback goes down, QB2 has to step up. So I would like to see Max Brown challenge Jack Miller, the older guy, for that QB2 spot. If he was to somehow surpass him and be QB2, I think that would be, some confidence on my behalf with the backup situation.
He's gotten better, but I don't know that he's QB2 yet.
Yeah, that's what I would like to see, Nick.
He's just prognosticating.
I don't think he is right now either. No, I like Nick's. That he is quarterback 3 right now, and I know like he played baseball, so and he was a little raw coming out as well. Wasn't a highly touted 3-star guy, but there's some potential there, and I would like to see that type of growth from him. Pause. We'll see.
Woo.
6 foot. Our Graham Mertz 6'3", 215. Sorry, just going through a couple other notes here. I know that Graham. Somebody said in here, little known fact, that Graham Mertz can run. Wasn't asked to run a lot of Wisconsin. We saw some tape of him running quite fast. Was it 21, 22 miles an hour? Probably a Florida time delay, a Florida, laser time there, maybe a little bit adjusted for the visuals, but
then they cook the books.
I think, I think there's a lot of
A
book.
little self-hate, Nick. It's self-hate, bro. He don't think Graham can run like that. A little self-hate, bro.
All right, cool. Like we'll see it in the combine. We'll see what 23
They'll do
miles
miles
an
per
hour.
hour though.
Okay,
So,
yeah, but you can equate 23 miles an hour to what a 40 time is, and when you run out
right.
a 4.940, I'm gonna question your 23 miles an hour at practice.
I think the way Mertz was trucking along there, I got him penciled in at 4.7.
Okay.
All right. 22.7 miles an hour. That's fast. I cannot run 22.7 miles an hour. Maybe Silk can. Silk's frozen.
My days.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, my days of running are coming. I was sprinting my son on vacation up a hill, and I got one time 2 L's. So he's 11.
You didn't get hurt, so that's a W.
That is. I didn't want to race him, bro. He just kept walking around the house challenging everybody in the house to foot races. I was just like, bro, we just can't let this 11-year-old boss us around like this. so I had to go out there, but I don't know if I can hit 22 miles per hour, but I can come close, I think.
No.
Yeah, I don't.
They're cooking the books for Gators, so I think I can get it, Nick.
You remember that time that Florida had like 5 players on their team running under 4.340s?
Yeah.
I think exactly 0 of them clocked under 4.39 maybe at the combine. But we'll see.
Man.
Yeah, hey,
Master motivator.
He knew what to do. I think this is Graham Mertz's job to lose. Jack Miller. I don't think, obviously, Florida played terribly against Oregon State. He was dealt a pretty crappy hand when it came to the team that was there. I think that he's serviceable enough. I don't think that you win a lot of games necessarily with Jack Miller or Max Brown leading you there. That's not slight to them, but I do think that Graham Mertz is probably a better quarterback than what the internet says. I don't think that he's going to win the Heisman Trophy this year, but I am curious to see how he is in this offense. I'm curious to see how Florida uses him. Somebody mentioned in the chat, this was kind of my thought as well. Do they put him in a position to run the ball just because of the depth that you have behind at the quarterback position? Yeah, that's certainly a question to be asked. But, I think if Florida can get the ball speed and space, make those short to intermediate throws, moving the football, not playing hero ball, that's what Florida needs. They've got great running backs, and I think that's going to really, augment. I think having a tight end, having that option become available, who that might be, we'll see.
Arliss Bordenham, I got for a big year this year.
There's a number of names that we hope, right? And you've seen glimpses out of some, but again, it's just a matter of putting that all together, right? We need to have those pieces. I'll make sure that the offensive line is doing their job, that the tight ends are getting open or they're blocking depending on the scheme, and that the wide receivers are getting open. I know that Florida has some upperclassmen wide receivers, but I'm willing to bet some of these younger guys coming in might supplant some of that. And then the running backs run the way that we think that they will. What's
a big year for a pass catcher on this team?
I don't think that the Gators have a 1,000-yard receiver. I think 700 might be max.
But like last year, they had like 2 guys or 3 guys with 20 catches. No one had 30. Like, what's a big year? 25? Like outside of Ricky.
Let's see. So that would be a little bit more than 2 catches a game. But Florida's going to play 15 games this year, so that's 30.
15 games.
All 15.
It's Lion season, baby.
Like Silk said, big year for Arliss Bordenham. A big year for Arliss Bordenham might be 15 catches for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Is that a big year?
For a tight end, yeah.
I think with what else you have on the roster, yeah, I mean, that might be a good expectation. I mean, but if you get 15 catches for 300 yards, that's pretty solid production there, Nick. That's 20 yards a catch.
I mean, that's a big year for a guy that's coming on the scene. We haven't seen like a coming out party. I think his potential. Tony Livingston, so he may split some of those stats with him. I just think we're going to see a lot of athleticism, and we haven't seen it from the tight end position since Kyle Pitts left. So I believe in those guys. I think they have a lot of potential. Livingston was a basketball player, so there's some acclimation to football, and absolutely on the collegiate level that he has to do. But I think those guys are gonna be good outlets for a guy like Graham Mertz, who's gonna need outlets. We're gonna play off play action and within those that tackle tight end box a lot, in my opinion. So I see those guys coming out parties this year, both tight ends.
I mean, and then you still have Keon Zipper on campus, and
is he back healthy?
Zip's not going to play.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. He's out after the year. You have Jonathan Odom, who was injured last year too, but had some catches and some touchdowns there. Do you start to see?
I think you're really going to see 3 tight ends. You're going to see Dante Sanders, Arlis Boardingham, and I think Odom. And with Odom and Boardingham being the pass catchers, I don't know that either of them gets to like that 15 mark.
Hey, we'll see, right? We'll see with the offense. Obviously, it's going to be a very different offense. Florida struggled to get to the ball tight end all of last season, right? But I don't know how much they were open. I don't know, how much of their responsibility was getting open compared to blocking. A lot of what Florida relied on last year was trying to play a little bit of hero ball, right? To try to buy that time to get that long, deep seam route that might be open, right? So, Florida's offense with Graham Mertz, obviously not as athletic as Anthony Richardson. In fact, no quarterback ever has been as athletic as Anthony Richardson was, right? So with this offense, do you start to see, some small, post routes or some out routes from some of these wide receivers or from some of these tight ends that do open those opportunities that you didn't have last year? And is it a Boardingham? Is it, Dante Sanders? Is it Jonathan Odom? Is it Tony Livingston? Right? Hayden Hansen, redshirt freshman, right? Do you see him at all, right? Like Florida has 8 tight ends, 7 of which are healthy right now. There's got to be something there, hopefully.
There's definitely some potential there. It's just a matter of how much we use that position. Traditionally, Billy hasn't used it a lot. We'll see if he changes, he makes any tweaks to this offense. But it all depends on that. But I do think we have capability at the position. It's about how many throws and how much we include the tight ends in the passing offense.
Yeah, and looking at Florida, obviously teams are going to have to respect the run. Florida has 3 very capable running backs, and Treyon Webb is a freshman, but he might get even some time too. So Florida has 3 very capable running backs with potentially a 4th that you have to respect that. So with them being in a position where you have to respect the running back, does that then open up Florida for some opportunities where Graham Mertz can be successful just because of the strength of the rest of the team on offense, or at least in the running back room? So, Nick, I know that you have to run here in a moment. Let's get into safeties real quick. Run down that room, Kamari.